The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Are you serious? Let's forget about the playoff odds just for a second, because that was something else, and we might never see that again in Canucks history. Never mind Canucks history, in NHL history. Let's go!
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to the Postcast here on Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. And before we dive into it, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, because it is your Canucks every damn day. And yeah, I think we know the Canucks, they're not mathematically eliminated. They stay alive for another night. And of course, it is an impossible hill to climb. But what happened tonight? That was damn near impossible. And the Canucks somehow, some way, pulled it off with a 6-5 win over the Dallas Stars in overtime. The mighty Dallas Stars, with 50 wins on the season, still battling for top spot in the Central Division, they somehow cough up a 3-goal lead in the final minute of regulation to the Vancouver Canucks, with Pius Suter as their top line center. And I got to say, a little tidbit from earlier today. I heard a rumbling that, Pete DeBoer was looking at the starting lineup for the Canucks and going like, who are these centers? Well, I'll tell you what, one of those centers' names is Pius Suter. And man, oh man, we keep talking about Pius Suter potentially being a $4 to $4.5 million player. This guy might be a $5 million, $6 million player. He's been electric for the Canucks over the past couple of weeks. I saw in the comments here, I believe it was 26 points in his last 32 games. Shout out to producer of the show, Mike Laval, for that comment. Pius Suter leads all Canucks in points, by the way, since January 23rd, since the JT Miller trade. You could argue that he's been the most impactful Vancouver Canuck since really in the calendar year here in 2025. But let's get into my big three takeaways from the game tonight, the 6-5 win over the Dallas Stars. And the number one has to be, this was not just the craziest comeback in Canucks history, but arguably the craziest comeback in NHL history. And maybe it's not even arguable, because, the NHL public relations team tweeted this out after the game, but this was the craziest comeback, right? This was, according to NHL public relations, the Canucks became the first team in NHL history to win after erasing a 3-goal deficit in the final minute of regulation. And honestly, the other contenders on this list, no one even comes that close. You look at the next one was the Montreal Canadiens, who erased a 3-goal deficit in the final 5 minutes and change of their game here. I'll try to pull it up here for you viewing on YouTube here on Locked On Canucks. But man, oh man, what a night for your Vancouver Canucks. And look, it's just the vibes around this team have been so poor. I think we've even seen it here on Locked On Canucks. People are tuning out of the team, right? They're tuning out of the team because, look, this Canucks team, we expected so much more from them, right? We expected them to be a Stanley Cup contender, not a team that was going to be missing the playoffs this season. But man, just for one night, the Canucks gave us a moment to cheer about. And look, you look at the final minute there of the game, and it's just something that's preposterous. When you look at the Dallas Stars defense, and I know they're missing Miro Heiskanen, but they got a couple good guys back there in Esa Lindell and Thomas Harley, and they just looked befounded by the Canucks, right? The Canucks, I mean, the fact that they even got it within a 1-goal game was crazy. Yeah, and maybe we should have seen this coming. I believe it was the game right after the JT Miller trade where Dallas was up 5-1 in the final minute. Canucks scored 2 goals to make it 5-3. So the Canucks with a bit of history of doing this kind of thing against the Dallas Stars this season. But man, oh man, tonight was something else for your Vancouver Canucks. Again, they score 3 goals in the final minute. Then they have the 4-on-3 in overtime. And you're thinking that this team, they got to score here. This is the moment. And of course, they don't score in the power play. And you're thinking, typical Canucks luck. They're going to find a way to lose this game. But thankfully, they won the game thanks to Kiefer Sherwood. And I say that is my second big takeaway from the game tonight. The two unlikely heroes, or are they likely heroes for your Vancouver Canucks, in Pius Suter and Kiefer Sherwood, two of the shining gems from the Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford era. Two guys who are making a combined $3.1 million this season. The Canucks haven't hit on all of their free agents, but Pius Suter and Kiefer Sherwood have played well above what they're being paid to do for the Vancouver Canucks. And of course, we talked about Suter, 26 points in 32 games. A guy who's obviously due for a massive raise, whether it's with the Canucks or someone else. But it was a shrewd signing at the time. But he has hit levels that I don't think anyone in Vancouver saw coming based on what he's done over the past couple of months. And let's talk about Kiefer the Reefer Sherwood for a second, man. Yeah, a beloved guy in Vancouver, man. Let's do it for Reefer Sherwood. Man, oh man, he's making Vancouver want to feel 420 friendly tonight, scoring the overtime winner from a nice feed. Connor Garland with a great play behind the net to strip the defenseman of the puck, pass it out to a wide open Kiefer Sherwood out front, completing, again, the craziest comeback in NHL history. Again, no team has scored 3 goals in the final minute of a game and went on to win in overtime. Just unreal stuff from the Vancouver Canucks. And a special shout out to Pius Suter and Kiefer Sherwood. I mean, when you look at this team right now, and this isn't a night where I want to reflect too much on what could have been for the Vancouver Canucks, but I'm going to do it for a second here. Because this team has been playing hard for each other. They have a lot of good depth players. You're just thinking, man, oh man, if they only had a bit of star power going for them on offense, things could have been different for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, that being said, let me get out of my negative Begsy moment here. The Vancouver Canucks offense has been pretty darn good over the past couple of months, which is saying something based on the fact that they've been missing Filipino. They've been missing Elias Pettersson. They have found a way to score goals in bunches. I believe there's a stat here where the Canucks have scored 6 goals or more. There it is. The Canucks have scored 6 goals in a game for the 5th time in their last 13 outings. That one's courtesy of Jeff Patterson. So the Vancouver Canucks have somehow, some way managed to score goals in bunches here, despite missing some of the top guys in their lineup. And I know this team has not had the best record since the Four Nations, but in terms of goal scoring, the Vancouver Canucks right up there in the middle of the pack since the end of the Four Nations, scoring 3.04 goals per game, squarely at 15th overall in the NHL. And honestly, I think we know it, and I talked about it with Patrick Johnson today earlier on Locked On Canucks. Go check out that episode if you haven't already. The goaltending has actually been one of the biggest problems for the Vancouver Canucks. You don't want to fault Thatcher Demko too much tonight. 3 power play goals. Maybe that dam was due to break just based on how good the Canucks have been on the penalty kill. Of course, a guy like Marcus Pettersson ends up in the box for the 3rd power play goal there. Maybe the Canucks were due just to let in a few power play goals in one game here. But man, oh man, the resiliency of this team, I would say that is my 3rd takeaway from tonight. For the Rick Tocchet haters out there, and there are quite a few of them here in Vancouver, let me know in the comments. I'll get to a few of them here, definitely before we wrap up here on Locked On Canucks. But the Canucks, they've started to play their ass off under Rick Tocchet. Whatever was plaguing this team in December and January, in the height of the Miller-Pettersson drama, is now behind them. This team's certainly been lacking some juice. They've been lacking some goaltending, but they have played their asses off, for the most part, over the past month and change as they push for the playoffs here. And the record doesn't necessarily reflect it because the talent hasn't been there, right? Pettersson and Besser were slumping for a long time. The goaltending has let them down immensely since the Four Nations break. But this Canucks team has played their ass off for each other, and that's what you want to see moving forward for this team. Again, I'll say it. I've said it before. Every dares know. This Canucks team, I think they are destined for bigger and better things next season. I don't know if they're a cup contender. The Elias Pettersson wild card is just it's something that's hanging over this team like a dark cloud until he figures it out. But I really like what Rick Tocchet has done with this team. They are playing for each other. They are playing their asses off even when they should be down and out. And somehow, some way, they're scrapping out wins here. Again, it's become too little too late for this playoff push. But hey, let's just be positive for a second here because the Vancouver Canucks, they should have been dead tonight. they're surely dead in this playoff race, but they just pulled off the craziest comeback in NHL history. Who knows what's next for this team over the final 5 games? That's some drunken optimism tonight here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day and every night, baby. Let's take a quick break here. Shout out to sponsor. We'll be back on the other side to get to report cards and some of your comments here on Locked On Canucks. All right. Let's talk about my nuts, okay? Because tonight was nuts. So it makes sense that the sponsor tonight on Locked On Canucks is Wonderful Pistachios. And man, oh man, there's nothing I like to do after the nuttiest game I've ever seen than stuff a bunch of nuts in my mouth. And the best nuts to stuff in your mouth are the nuts from Wonderful Pistachios. So if you're looking for the snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller for longer. And personally, I like the teas, baby. Give me the no shells variety. I like those naked nuts in my mouth. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or stuffing my mouth full of nuts after a big Canucks win. The no shells variety snack from Wonderful Pistachios is always my go-to. And if you like the teas and if you love cracking open a shell for every satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are also a classic favorite. So make sure you get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Whoa, we're back here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. And for those of you who have been everydayers or occasional listeners throughout this season, you might recall an episode that Kyle Bowen did solo right before he went into hospital with Canucks succitis. I believe it was a 3-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres. He came on the show feeling dead, feeling sick. I'm not going to lie, I'm feeling in a similar position, but no, I told Patrick Johnson today that the Canucks made me sick. This isn't a cold from my kids. But I might have been cured tonight, baby. I might have been cured by the Vancouver Canucks. We'll see if my voice lasts the rest of the show. And we'll see what I do here when we go through each and every Canucks performance tonight on this segment that we like to call Report Card. All right. Let's do report cards here on Locked On Canucks. And this is supposed to be 5 minutes for report cards. We'll see if I keep it to 5 minutes or not. I'm watching the clock, baby. Let's get to it. The first guy on the list, Brock Boeser. Brock Boeser. I'll say overall for Brock Boeser tonight, he played a pretty clean game overall. Wasn't on the ice for a goal for or a goal against at even strength. Of course, did end up on the ice for some goals there with the Canucks, having the extra attacker there. Didn't get on the score sheet, but overall, I'd say not a bad night from Brock Boeser. Let's give him a B- overall. Connor Garland, okay? And man, oh man, maybe I should just shout out this comment quick from one of the listeners here. David Martin in the comment saying, all players get an A+. Come on, it's the craziest comeback in Canucks history. What am I doing here giving some guys a B-? But Connor Garland tonight, I'm giving him an A+, because he was the guy who made the play behind the net in overtime to set up Kiefer Sherwood for the goal that gave the Canucks the greatest comeback win in Canucks history. Let's go to Filip Hronek next here on the list. Filip Hronek, again, pretty clean game overall. He was on the ice for more chances for than against, but picks up a couple assists. I'd say a very typical Filip Hronek night. He had some plays tonight that you didn't love, but he ends up, helping the team in transition, gets a couple of apples as well. Boom, bam, nice job by Filip Hronek. Drew O'Connor, I'm not going to lie, I barely noticed the guy tonight. Was he playing? Did he do all right? Drew O'Connor, in terms of game score, actually worse on the Canucks tonight. Let's give him a C overall. Nils Höglander. Nils Höglander was a guy that you thought might play hero there. He tried to rush into the net late there in overtime for the Vancouver Canucks. But Nils Höglander, again, he's looked good. He's looked like he's playing. He's playing for something here. Maybe playing for a job on the Vancouver Canucks. in the top 6 heading into next season. Got up to 16:36 of ice time tonight as well. Let's give Nils Höglander a B. Pius Suter. This man, he's not only getting the A+, he's getting the applause, baby. Elias who? Doesn't even matter anymore when Pius Suter is your first line center. Unbelievable performance from Pius Suter. 2 of the 3 Canucks goals there, including the game-tying goal in the dying seconds. Crazy that he didn't even realize that he scored it there when the puck first went in. But man, oh man, Pius Suter has been a revelation in Vancouver. And, I keep going back and forth on this guy. Should they sign him? Should they look for a cheaper option? Maybe Aatu Räty can be that replacement for him, potentially. But right now, Pius Suter has been the MVP for the Canucks since the calendar turned to January 1st, and maybe since the Four Nations break. Maybe I'm discrediting Quinn Hughes a little bit, getting too drunk off the blue and green. DPD, another fine game for him. Let's give him a B. Let's give Forbort a B-. Marcus Pettersson actually ended up with the highest game score among all Canucks tonight, playing 22-17 overall, picking up an apple. Didn't end up in the box once, but Canucks controlled play when he was on the ice, and man, oh man, like the trade or not, he has been a steadying force for the Vancouver Canucks, wearing an A tonight for the Vancouver Canucks as well. Let's give Marcus Pettersson an A-. Quinn Hughes, I'd say a bit better from Quinn Hughes compared to what he's done of late. And you got to give the guy some kudos, right? Because he played almost 32 minutes tonight. He had a shift in overtime that was over 3 minutes long. I want to say this guy is playing at 60% right now, just based on what we've seen over the past handful of games. But you want to talk about guys who are playing their ass off for this Vancouver Canucks team? It starts with Quinn Hughes. I got to give this guy an A tonight. Again, not the perfect Quinn Hughes game, but he is playing his ass off right now, and he's leading by example, and I think it's rubbing off on the rest of the guys in that dressing room. Kiefer Sherwood, come on, man. Come on. This guy's getting a round of applause too, buddy. And give him a goat bleat too, because man, oh man, Kiefer Sherwood with the game-winning goal tonight for the Vancouver Canucks. Again, been a bit more of a playmaker recently. The goal scoring has dried up for him in the latter half of the season, but again, still hitting guys and finds a way to help the Canucks complete the craziest comeback in NHL history. I'm going to keep saying that because it's not getting old anytime soon. Teddy Blueger, let's give this guy a C+ for tonight. Aatu Räty. I said it earlier this week on Locked On Canucks. This guy is done in the AHL. Yeah, he's going to go back for the Calder Cup playoffs and help the Abbotsford Canucks maybe win a Calder Cup based on the way they're playing, especially without Aatu Räty right now. But he picks up a goal and an assist tonight. And again, you've liked his game recently, and he's a guy that we've said it before. If he just gets an extra step in the offseason, he is going to help the Canucks immensely next season. I'm really high on Aatu Räty. Maybe being more than a third line center, but even if he was just a third line center for this team, you would take that, especially considering, he's young, he's cost controlled. And again, he gets a goal there that kickstarted this whole Canucks comeback. I'm giving Aatu Räty an A tonight. Max Sasson, again, not looking at a place in the Canucks lineup. Let's give him a B overall. Jake DeBrusk, Jake DeBrusk, 25 goals on the season is almost hard to believe because he's been so inconsistent. But that was a sneaky goal that he scored there on Casey DeSmith in the third period to, again, start kick back this comeback. Again, I might remind you, not only did the Canucks come back from 5-2, they were also down 3-0 at the beginning of the third period. And Jake DeBrusk's power play goal started the comeback, I guess you could call it, even though the Dallas Stars did score a couple of goals after that. Let's give Jake DeBrusk an A- tonight. Dakota Joshua, give him a B-. Victor Mancini. This is a topic for another episode of Locked On Canucks, but Victor Mancini, you got to wonder if they're trying to showcase this guy in some way right now. Because Victor Mancini, he's starting to get some more minutes. He got some power play time tonight. He scores his first goal as a Canuck. Look, he is an imperfect player right now. He had some plays tonight where he had an opportunity to clear it out of the zone, wasn't able to do it. He's a young, raw player, but you see the wheels, you see some offensive instincts, and obviously those offensive instincts got him a look on PP2 tonight where he snaps home the goal that made it a 3-2 game. And every goal tonight for the Vancouver Canucks was big. Victor Mancini's as well. I'm going to give him a B+ overall. Again, imperfect game, but he made an impact for the Canucks tonight. And Linus Karlsson, the MVP, I'd say, for the Abbotsford Canucks this season. He played 10 minutes overall, does pick up an assist. Let's give him a B overall. And Thatcher Demko, look, I'll say this. Thatcher Demko was better than Casey DeSmith tonight. And that's all that matters. Let's give Thatcher Demko a C+ overall. That was report cards. What I want to do next is get to a bunch of your comments here on the other side on Locked On Canucks. Let's shout out our friends over at Bear Mattress, and let's hear from the host of Locked On Senators, my buddy Ross Leviton. Go Sens, go. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day and every night, baby.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bear Mattress. Bear Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster, as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bear Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid Mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bear Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bear Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, we're back here to wrap up on Locked On Canucks. Your Canucks every damn day and every night, baby. And man, oh man, again, the Canucks completing the craziest comeback in NHL history. Again, down 5-2 in the final minute. The Dallas Stars scoring that empty net goal, looking like they'd iced the game. The Canucks' playoff hopes officially would have been dead. They would have been mathematically eliminated. But somehow, some way, they managed to stay alive for another night. And let's get to some of the comments, man, because there's drunken optimism going on here with the Vancouver Canucks. It's not just me, baby. It's with you, the listeners of Locked On Canucks. Let's go to Hangia in the comments saying it's not over yet, baby. Repeating that, saying it's still not too little too late. It's not over yet. And Greg Mellon in the comments saying you've got to hope the Wild lose the rest of their games or don't get 2 points as the regulation wins are not on the Canucks side. And yeah, the math is still not in the Canucks' favor, but let's take a look at this right now. So the Canucks have 4 games to go on their schedule. They have 85 points. They can get a maximum of 93 points. So the Minnesota Wild, I know it's a pipe dream, but let's just dream for a second here. So the Minnesota Wild, 4 games left. One of those games is against the Vancouver Canucks. So the rest of their schedule, again, is not in the Canucks' favor necessarily. They have the Sharks, they have the Flames, they have the Canucks, and they have the Ducks. Yeah, it is not a murderer's row of opponents, but tonight has me believing in miracles, okay? I'm believing in miracles for the first time as a Vancouver Canucks fan. And belief is a powerful thing. I mean, look, we can sit here and bitch and moan and complain about this team, but watching sports, connecting with podcasts, articles regarding your favorite team, it's supposed to be fun, okay? It's supposed to be escapism. And Canuck fans, you can escape tonight knowing that your team still has a chance to make it to the playoffs. And look, I know Hangy in the comments saying that I'm bringing that drunken optimism. I know the odds are against the Vancouver Canucks, but they were certainly against the Vancouver Canucks tonight. I'll say that. What were the worst odds? The Canucks coming back from 5-2 in the final minute of that game, or their odds of making the playoffs? Both were pretty slim, but the odds of them coming back tonight and actually winning were slimmer than their playoff odds overall. Again, a crazy night for the Vancouver Canucks, and let's get to some more comments here on Locked On Canucks. Man, oh man, Michael Chow in the comments saying it all started because Filip Hronek won the face-off. Without that, maybe Dallas gets the puck and things are different. Yeah, that's a great point right there. Filip Hronek, as Aatu Ratu gets waved out of the face-off. Again, another reason why Aatu Ratu is sticking around on this team full time. The guy is just a savant in the faceoff circle, being trusted out there to take the draw in overtime. He does get waived, and Phil Peronik comes in and beats Mikko Rantanen on the faceoff. I mean, what the hell happened tonight for the Vancouver Canucks? I mean, this is it's just absolutely wild stuff right now. Again, one of the craziest nights in Canucks history. I wanted to get to this comment here. Let's see if I can find it. Man, oh man. But it alluded to the fact that Connor Garland, the commenter asked, what was the craziest Connor Garland assist tonight? Because he had 3 assists there in the third period, on the Jake DeBrusk goal, on Pius Suter's second goal, and then of course in overtime as well. And I mean, the first one to DeBrusk, a cross ice pass, Jake DeBrusk was streaking in, managed to bank it off of DeSmith's skate. The second one, again, throwing it across the high danger area in the slot to Pius Suter for a goal, and then the goal, and then the assist for Sherwood in overtime. I'm giving it to the Sherwood goal, not just because of how big that moment was, but because you have the smallest forward in the NHL beating a defenseman to the puck and throwing it out to the slot to his teammate. I mean, that was a crazy move by Connor Garland. Again, one of the craziest players on the Vancouver Canucks this season. Let's get to this comment from Hangia again. Hangia, he's producing the show tonight along with Mike Laval. Good move from Tocchet with the timeout with 26 seconds left. And if Rick Tocchet didn't take a timeout there, I probably would have thrown my drink at the TV. Not to say I'm as emotional as Kyle Bowen, but you needed to take a timeout there. And Rick Tocchet has been pretty shy overall this season with taking timeouts in big moments. But again, he took the timeout with 26 seconds left. Obviously, what they did worked, even though it was a bit of a mad scramble on the boards before they eventually got the puck to Pius Suter for that game-tying goal. But you got to give Rick Tocchet some credit. And look, I think I'm a bigger Rick Tocchet fan than most in this market. A lot of people complaining about the style, but I go back to the fact that this team scored quite a lot of goals under Rick Tocchet last season. Yeah, they need to shoot the puck more. They were going toe-to-toe with Dallas in the first, and then, of course, started to come back in the third. Bit of a lull in the second period there. But this team, again, they're playing hard under Rick Tocchet, and he did the right thing in that situation to take the timeout for the Vancouver Canucks. Rafael Khan in the comments. Made NHL history for greatest comeback. Imagine if we did it in 2011. Hey, that wasn't a comeback per se, but still the craziest goal in Canucks history. Alex Burrows, the 2011 goal there on the Chicago Blackhawks. Callum Sandu in the comments saying, Begsy, did we set a Canucks record or an NHL record with a miraculous win tonight? Yeah, if you missed it off the top, the Canucks, the first team in NHL history to erase a 3-goal deficit in the final minute of regulation. I'm going to have in front of me here the other teams to do it. The Montreal Canadiens did against the Ottawa Senators with a shade over 3 minutes remaining in 2014. The San Jose Sharks did it against the Utah Hockey Club with just under 5 minutes remaining in earlier this season, actually. Wow. The Seattle Kraken, of course, did it to the Vancouver Canucks this season. Ugh, that one hurts. And the New York Islanders did against the Detroit Red Wings in 2018 in 5.5 minutes. So again, the Canucks tonight, no matter what happens, they can take solace in the fact that they have the craziest comeback in Canucks history. And maybe I'll give the last comment here to Matt on Locked On Canucks. All we need is 20 wins in a row and a few losses from the Minnesota Wild. But hey, the Vancouver Canucks got 4 games left in their season. Matt is right. 20 wins to go to the Vancouver Canucks win the Stanley Cup. Ha ha! Drunken optimism for one more night here on Locked On Canucks. I appreciate the hell out of you for tuning in to this postcast here on Locked On Canucks. Again, the Canucks scored 3 goals in the final minute, defeat the Dallas Stars 6-5 in overtime. Shout out to Quinn Hughes. Shout out to Pius Suter. Shout out to Kiefer Sherwood. Shout out to Connor Garland. And shout out to you and you and you and you and you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. Whether you're an everydayer, an occasional listener, a first-time listener, a new subscriber, or you join us on the live show here on YouTube. If you like what we're doing here on Locked On Canucks, make sure you go subscribe and like on YouTube. On the podcast side, go follow us and leave a 5-star review. The Canucks, they ain't dead yet. And you know that I'm not dead yet either. I'll be back, not tomorrow, but Thursday here on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.